Okay, apparently we're live, I think.
Yeah. Hello. I can't actually see it. Hang on. Where are we at? Yeah, I can see it now, I believe.
Okay.
Oh dear.
Oh no.
No, it's alright. It's just my computer. My computer's having a bit of a meltdown.
Okay. Here we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Hey.
I can see it now.
Okay. I think everything's okay. I just did an accidental behind the scenes, so
Okay,
whoops.
that's fine. Morning, Charlotte.
Good morning to everybody. How is everybody this morning? Let us know.
Please.
This morning.
Right, hang on.
Oh.
2 seconds. I'm getting a phone call. I just need to mute my mic.
Okay, so this morning we're going to be doing a double exposure using Photopea. So last week we looked a little bit at vectors, but we're going to go back to more like photo editing this week. But if you'd like to see more vectors and stuff from us, please just let us know, and we can look into that for you.
Okay.
So
hello.
So we're using Photopea again this week. If you've been following the series so far, then you should already know how to get Photopea, but it's just photopea.com if you're new to the stream. And it's a free browser-based Photoshop alternative, and it's really good in my opinion, especially for being
Decent,
free.
Decent for costing absolutely nout.
Absolutely. So yes, and most of the same things that you can do in Photoshop you can do in Photopea, which is pretty good. And so today we're going to be doing a double exposure. You've probably seen those before. If you haven't, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's kind of where you can see one image through another one, and hopefully that'll become a little bit more clear when we're doing this. So you should have the resources in the description. There, you just click on the link and you should be able to download those, and it should be separated into subjects and landscapes. So it should look something like this. So just download them. If you don't know how to download them, just click on the name of the folder and you should get like a drop down thing, and you can just click download and it should appear on your computer. Once you've downloaded those, the first ones that we're going to look at, we're kind of going to do a little bit of an easy introduction into this first. So afterwards you can choose your own images from the folder, but for the first one, if you choose the same ones as me, it might be a little bit easier. So if you've got those downloaded, you can go back to Photopea and go to File and Open, and in the Subjects folder I want you to choose the bison. So that should be named for you. Then File and Open again, and the snow. There's like a snow image. It should have been in landscapes, but it's somehow in subjects, so that's fine. Just open it from there.
Just a quick note on downloading the landscapes and the subject. If you can download the full Monday 18th of May folder. So if you right click on it and download, what it'll do is it'll download it as a zip file. So before you bring it into Photopea, you'll have to go to your downloads, find the folder that you just downloaded, right click on it, and extract all, and then that'll put all that folder into your downloads, and you can go to it from there.
Thank you for that. Okay, so you should have the bison image and the snow image open. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all of the snow and we're just going to copy and paste it onto the bison. So if you select all by pressing Ctrl and A on your keyboard, or Command A if you're on a Mac, and Ctrl C for copy. Switch back to your bison and do a Ctrl V for paste, and hopefully that should work. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to do is, the way that these images are kind of going to work together, it makes our life a little bit easier for this first one that we're going to do, and we're just going to change the blending mode of the snow layer from normal to screen. And you should see pretty quickly what's going on here. And it's because that we've got a white background already on our bison, that we don't have to cut anything out, and the kind of effect happens pretty quickly. So you could leave that there if you wanted to, but we can make this a lot better just using a few clicks. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring out some more of the more important features of the bison, things like its head, and just kind of you know, like his feet have kind of gotten a bit lost and stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a mask to the snow layer. I don't know if you can actually see where the mask
You might want to turn the banner off just for a minute.
Yep.
While you show the mask icon on the bottom.
Alright. So if I just take those banners off a sec. And so the mask icon is this one here. It's kind of like a rectangle with a circle in it. So we're just going to click on that one. And also important to note for later is the new adjustment layer, which is right next to it. So if I talk about that one, just try and remember that's there so I can put the banners on. But it looks like a sort of circle split in two, but we want the mask for now, so that's the rectangle with the circle in it. Okay, I'm going to put those banners back on. There we go. Okay, so what should happen is you should have a sort of white thumbnail box on that's linked by a tiny little chain thing on your snow layer. So basically, I'm pretty sure most people who followed this series will have used a mask before, but if you haven't used one, the way that it works is kind of like a stencil, and you can rub bits out without fully deleting your image. So I'm going to use the brush tool, and I'm going to make sure that the brush is quite big and quite soft. So you can go up to here, and it's got all of your brush settings over here. So we're going to have 0% hardness, so the softest it can possibly be, and I've got it on 250 pixels. And so we need to make sure that the colour that we've got selected in our foreground colour is black, and we're going to rub out where the snow layer is over this bison's head, so it should bring back that bison's head into a bit more focus. So
Sue's asking, did you say the mask was a circle in a box? So yeah, it's on that bottom row. There's a small circle inside of a white like rectangle. It's like the middle button.
yeah,
and it'll say, if you click on it,
if you
hover over it, sorry, it'll say add raster mask, and that'll add the mask to the layer.
Yeah. So if you're not sure what anything does on Photopea, just hover over the icon and it should give you a little bit of an indicator as to what it does. So make sure that you have got your mask selected. So you should have the little dots around the white thumbnail on the layer. And I've just started clicking and dragging to brush that mask on there. So hopefully you can see that the head of the bison is starting to become a little bit more in focus. And you should see where that's happening on the thumbnail. There's like a little black area there. So I'm going to do the same on his feet, but I'm going to just drop the opacity a little bit. I'm going to put it on like 80%, just so that the effect isn't as harsh straight away. And I'm going to make the brush a little bit bigger as well. You can do this by going to the brush settings in the top left all the time, but I sometimes find it's easier to use the keyboard shortcuts, which are the open and close square brackets. So to make it bigger, if you look for the enter key on your keyboard, there should be a square bracket, and that one makes it bigger and the other one makes it smaller. So I'm just going to brush his legs and feet back in a little bit. But I don't want to do too much, otherwise we'll lose the image as well. So just brush in some bits so that you can see both. Okay, so I think this image is getting better all the time, but there's still some other things that we can do to make this even better. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add a levels adjustment layer. So if you know where the mask is, the adjustment layer is just to the left of that. So click on new adjustment layer, and we're going to go to levels, and we should get this little fly out menu, and you should see that the levels adjustment layer is on top of your snow layer.
If you cannot find that box on the bottom as well, if you go up to layer on the top, in the top menu,
over
and then
here.
you've got new adjustment layer and then levels. That's another way to find it.
There we go. Good tip. Okay, so we're gonna clip this so that it only affects the layer directly below it. So we're gonna right click sort of to the right of where it says levels 1, and we're gonna click on clipping mask. So that means it'll only affect the layer directly below it. So it won't affect the bison, just the snow. So this is where you can kind of bring out different bits of your image. So if we just up the contrast a little bit by dragging that little black square further towards the right, that'll make the blacks more black, basically. And we can do the same the other way, and it just sort of brings it out further. So you might be thinking that hasn't done that much, but you can have a look by switching the eye on and off and see what it looked like before. It just adds a little bit more contrast so that we can see fully what's going on around here. But you can just do it by eye. There's no set amount, and it'll be different for every image as well, so don't worry too much. So there's a little bit as well where now I've done that, I feel like this kind of looks like a gap here, so I'm just going to paint in just around the corner. So I've clicked back onto my mask, and I've got the brush tool selected still, and I'm just going to hover around the edge so that it just brings that bit in a little bit. But like I was saying, you can do this by eye, it's totally up to you what it looks like. It's very much a case of, you know, what you think looks best. Another cool thing that you can do is if you're not sure about the placement of where this is on your bison, you can unlink the chain between the mask and the actual layer itself, the actual snow image. So if you just click on the chain, and if you go to your move tool, make sure that you've got your snow layer selected, so the actual snow itself, not the mask. So it needs to have the little dots around the outside of that thumbnail. you should be able to move it around on its own, and it should keep the same bits masked out. So, you know, we masked out those bits of the bison so that the head is still in focus and the feet and stuff like that. So you can decide where you want that kind of tree line and stuff. And place it wherever you like. So just move it around a bit until you're happy with the placement. I kind of like there, I think. Okay. So, are you doing this too, Hatham?
Yeah.
How are you finding it?
I was just gonna ask. So
Yeah.
we did the screen thing just for the purposes of the stream and the guys listening. When you the screen, like changing the blend mode to screen only works on an image with white in, right?
Yeah. So the way that this works particularly well is because the bison is on a white background already.
Yeah.
When we do this again, we're going to do this with some slightly more complex images where we are going to have to cut things out ourselves. So say if this bison was on, I don't know, it was on a background of its own, you would need to cut it out so that this technique would work. Otherwise, everything would be affected by the changing of the blending mode to screen, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The rest of the background around the bison and stuff.
Yeah. But if you cut it out, it's not as much of a problem, as you'll find out soon, hopefully. Okay, so this is looking pretty good, but we can keep going and we can add some other kind of interesting features to bring it out a little bit more. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to add a kind of gradient effect on it. So you can do this using adjustment layers, or you can just do it yourself and then change it using blender modes. I'm going to do it myself because I want the option to change what the gradient looks like and you know, have a bit more control over it. Just it's slightly easier to do that, I think, when you're setting up the gradient on your own. But once you know how it works, you should be able to do it straight away from an adjustment layer. It doesn't really make any difference to the overall effect. So
creating a new layer is just the one next to the bin, isn't it? So there's the little trash can in the bottom right.
It looks like a new page.
Yeah, like a post-it, the corner peeled up almost. Yeah.
So we should have a new layer on there. And this is the gradient tool over here. Sometimes looks like the paint bucket. So if you right click on it, you'll get a little flyout and it's either the gradient or the paint bucket. But we want the gradient. So I've already been using Photopea, so my default gradient isn't there, but it should be a black and white one as your default. But if you click on the little arrow, it shows you some already preset gradients. So we can give one of those a try and see what it looks like. And then after that, we can create our own gradient. So you've got a little bit more control over what colours you have. So I'm going to start with this violet orange one.
You read my mind. That's rude. I was going to use that one.
It's a good gradient. So you might think it looks pretty garish at the minute, but it's going to be okay, I promise. So the way that the gradient works is you can click and drag. So you'll get a kind of line like this, and that's where your gradient's going to start and end, and in that direction as well. And that's partly why I've chosen to do it like this, so that I can get a kind of diagonal. And it might not look like much of a diagonal, but if you look here, the orange kind of reaches further on the bottom than it does at the top. So that should cover your whole new layer, but we're going to change the blender mode from normal to overlay. And that should have hopefully affected your image in the same way that it has mine, and just ignored all of the white areas, but just where there's any colour, added a gradient kind of on top of that. I think that's a little bit intense, so I'm going to drop the opacity of the layer from 100 down to maybe, I don't know, 70 or something. But you can do it by eye. It's up to you how strong you want the gradient. So I think that looks pretty cool. But let's try another gradient just because we can. So I'm going to switch that one off. And I'm going to go back to my gradient tool. Should already be selected. And we're going to click up into the top left on the little arrow. And you could choose another one if you wanted to, another preset. But I'm actually going to double click on this one. And the gradient editor should come up. And this gives you the option to choose your own colours and where they appear on the gradient as well. So I'm going to double click on that dark purple, and I'm maybe going to go for like I think I might have like a greeny bluey kind of colour, but I'm going to keep it quite dark on this side. And I'm going to change this side to, let's have like a lime green and see what happens. So it gives you like a preview of the gradient, and there should be a little box, like a really tiny black box in the middle, and you can move that around and you can decide how much of each colour you get in that gradient. The default position is on 50, so if you kind of drag it around too much and you're like, I need it back just to where it was, it's just on 50. Or you can type it in yourself if you wanted to, but I'm going to keep that on 50. I also found that this little thing kind of confused me a little bit when I was using it. It doesn't give you much of an indicator as to what is actually happening when you change this slider.
At the smoothness.
Yeah, the smoothness. And I can't really explain what it does. All I would say is it just affects the image differently. I thought that it would be how
Did you do it? Have you done a layer here, or like an adjustment layer? Like
I've just got a new layer.
Right, hang on.
But,
I'll have a quick look.
But it affects it more on an adjustment layer.
Oh.
Hang on.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of them times where it's slightly different in Photopea than it is in Photoshop.
It is. Okay.
So let's just do on 0 smoothness.
Oh, it hasn't saved my gradient. How rude.
Huh. I'm just going to have a quick look.
Yeah.
And just do 2 layers, one with 100%, one with 0.
I found that
it
was picking out different areas, like either more strongly or not, and I can't really explain that.
The smooth, I don't know, because on the smoothness of 0%, it seems like I just did the gradient from the same point on both sides of the canvas, and it seems like the one that had 100% smoothness on had more color on the right hand side, so like left to right. So I feel like it's blended it in more. Like that bit in the middle is more blended between the two colors than on the other one. There's more of like a solid like differentiation, if you know what I mean.
I'm gonna try this using an adjustment layer and see if I can show you the difference. So I'm gonna make a new adjustment layer, and I'm gonna go to gradient map, and it gives me an immediate preview. So I'm gonna just put it on the orange and purple one, change it to overlay, and I'm going to double click on this. So if you're on gradient map and like a new gradient map adjustment layer, and you change the smoothness, this hasn't really made much difference at all. This is very rude. I was finding the other day that when I was testing these, that it made a huge difference to.
So is this on the adjustment layer?
Yeah, but it doesn't
So
seem
that
to be doing much.
yeah, but that's because you've done that as an adjustment layer. You can you get the power to change this, right?
That's right. So I can see it in real
It's
time
probably a
what
bit,
happens.
yeah, it's probably a bit better to do it as an adjustment layer than I suppose. So Charlotte in Photopea, instead of click extend menus for the tools, you can use the shortcut keys. For example, you can click L and it will go to the lasso for selection. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So you don't have to do the flat right. So if it's like the gradient tool that you're trying to get to, but the paint bucket selected, the shortcut for the paint bucket is G. But obviously you want the gradient tool. But so if you press G again, it'll switch the tool. So you know how
Right.
it's
Yeah.
got multiple tools available under each option.
Yeah.
So like Charlotte says, like the lasso tool, you press L. If you want the next one down available,
Yeah.
you press L again. It automatically switches
Oh, okay.
to them
Good to
ones,
know.
which Photoshop doesn't, as far as I know. It sort of just does what it wants.
That's pretty cool that it like cycles through them.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, Charlotte.
Yeah. Good to know.
Appreciate that.
Okay. I'm gonna add in another color, and hopefully this might show you what I mean. So I just clicked underneath on this gradient editor. I'm going to double click in this box and I'm going to have a blue colour, I think. Okay. Let's see if this finally does something. Now I'm going to change the smoothness. Did that make any difference? See, I can see little bits of it changing.
Yeah, it's going to be the thing with the adjustment layers is it's always going to be a little difference anyway.
Yeah.
When it's things like that, obviously the gradient's the big difference, and little settings like that's not going to make a massive difference. I always find it's one of them things that you can show them the tutorial, but you never know.
That's true.
How someone's going to perceive it. So I would encourage you guys to just have a go at it and see what you think.
Yeah.
So obviously,
to be fair,
the steps are this. 2 seconds.
I was just going to say each
repeat
image is going to react differently, and I didn't test this on this specific combo. So sometimes these things are going to make a big difference, sometimes they're not. But what I will say is choosing different colours and putting them in different places on the gradient slider is going to make a difference. So I don't know if you can see when I'm shifting the colours around the different parts of the image being affected, more or less. But obviously all of your gradients are going to be completely different to mine. So just like I was saying before, do it by eye and choose which is your favourite. So I'm going to get rid of that gradient map because I think it's a bit garish. And I'm going to stick with my original Old Faithful orange and purple. And to be honest, that is the very basic version of what we're going to be doing for the rest of the session. But the other images that we're going to work with will require some cutting out, some more placement, stuff like that. But this gives you a pretty good idea of how sort of the technique works and what kind of things you can achieve. So the next thing that we're going to do though is we're going to cut out an image of a person, and we're going to add another landscape on top of that. So it should be a little bit more involved, the process of kind of cutting out and things like that. And I'm going to show you how to refine your selections a little bit on Photopea, which is a little bit different to Photoshop if you've ever done refined selection on Photoshop, but it does pretty much work. And we're going to be looking at more masks and stuff.
Hang on for a second, Ella, because there's a bit of a lag spike by the looks of it.
Oh no.
So I don't know how much of that everyone caught. So if we just wait till I'm just looking on the dashboard now just to see.
Okay.
It's just saying the connection's dropped out. That's all. So give it a minute or two. It says it's buffering. I'm just gonna click back onto this. Oh, I've clicked back onto the stream. So I'm gonna close that. It seems all right, actually. It seems all right. It seems like we're back.
Okay.
It did lag a little bit, but I think we're all right now.
Okay.
If you just quickly, I don't know if it cut out because I got a warning message. So if you just tell them what we're going to be doing next.
Okay. So hopefully you heard it, but if you didn't, then the next things that we're going to be doing is basically a really similar technique to what we've just done there, but a little bit more involved with more cutting out and more masking and stuff like that. So we're going to be cutting out an image of a person and choosing a landscape to put on top of that, so we get a similar effect, but it should be a little bit more intense cutting out, and I'm going to show you how to refine your selection a little bit in Photopea, which is a little bit different to Photoshop if you've ever done it like that. But first, if we just save out our images, so I'm going to go to File, Save as PSD, so that we keep all of our layers, and it should just automatically download. And I'm also going to File and then Export as, and I'm going to do a PNG. And when you save as a PNG, you get a lot of options. Gives you a preview of what it looks like at 100%, shows you the quality of the image and stuff, and what size it's going to be, and what file size it's going to be as well. So this is the dimensions in terms of pixel size, and that is the file size itself. It's quite useful saving for web or saving as a PNG when you are saving for something like I don't know, social media or a website or something like that. You know, a lot of social media sites, say if you're changing your profile picture or something like that, they ask for a specific size, width, height, or whatever, or file size that it needs to be. So if you know what they are, then you do get a lot of control just when you're saving out. So it is quite useful to know about this a little bit. So I can't think of a website off the top of my head that has any limits on this, but say, I don't know, say if you're emailing somebody an image and you don't need to send them something really high quality, you just need to send them something to give them an idea of something, you probably don't need to send them a file that's 3.5 megabytes. You probably wanted something less than that. So we could drop the quality a little bit if we can use the slider. It's lagging a bit for me. But if you change the quality, see I've dropped that down by like 1% somehow, and the image size has gone from 3.5 to 1.7 megabytes with hardly any difference in the quality. So just something to consider, that if you do need to be careful on your file sizes, that is one way to do it, or you can decrease the actual image size itself. So for example, if you're saving a cover photo or something like that for Facebook, it'll give you a recommended size, width and height, like sort of pixel thing that you need to follow, and if you do that, it means that your image won't get stretched or it won't get sort of affected in terms of the quality and stuff like that. So it is good to know what size you are working with. It's also really useful for print as well. So if I can change that to, I thought it would give me centimeters and stuff, but you can convert your pixel size to centimeters or whatever as well if you need to. So say if you're working with print, say if you wanted to print this out, I wouldn't save it as a PNG. I would save it probably as a TIFF, But if you're just looking for something that you can have, on your phone or put on social media and stuff like that, then a PNG will do totally fine. And I'm going to keep the quality on 100 for now because it doesn't matter to me about the file size. But it is worth knowing just in case you do need to change file sizes or anything like that. And this has completely crashed for me, so maybe it's going to be 82% rather than 100.
Mine, yeah, the slider is a little bit temperamental.
Very. I'll just give that a minute to catch up, I think. There we go. I'm just going to save it.
Back.
There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to close those two so that they're hopefully not going to crash my computer anymore. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go File and Open, and I'm going to have a little browse in our Subject folder to hopefully find somebody that I want to cut out and use for this portrait. I think I'm going to go for this guy. Completely chose at random, but you can choose however you like. But this one doesn't seem too hard to cut out as well because there's not a huge amount of sort of wispy hair around as well, which is kind of what can make it difficult to cut out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop this first because we don't need all of this in, we just want pretty much a headshot. So I'm going to use the crop tool, and I'm just going to drag a box around the area that I want. So something like that, I think. And then make sure you press the tick at the top to confirm, and it will make your crop for you. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, Control and plus, and what we need to do is we need to select the area that we want to keep. And you can do this with whatever selection tool you want. You can use the pen tool, a lasso tool, it's totally up to you. I'm just going to use the polygon, everybody's favourite. And I'm going to make sure that it's on this setting.
Charlotte's asking if a TIFF is better for print.
I would say so, yeah. A TIFF is a really high quality image. So sometimes printers will ask for a TIFF image. They're like massive file types, but they are generally pretty good quality for printing. But if you go into a commercial printer, it depends what they ask for, really. So some printers would ask for a PDF as well. But basically you just want an image that isn't going to be compressed. So for example, a JPEG is like a compressed image, so you lose some of the information, particularly on colours and stuff like that. So that's why you get smaller file sizes, but the image itself doesn't have the same amount of data that a printer would have, if that makes sense. I don't know if does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got the polygon selected, the polygonal lasso to give it its full name, and I'm going to make sure it's on this setting as well, just in case I accidentally get a bit and then want to add some more, because this setting, basically if you select an area, I'm just going to quickly do it like that, and then you want to select some more, it gets rid of your first selection, and we don't want that, just in case. So I'm just going to make sure it's on the second one that's called Unite. So I'm just going to go around this image. Don't worry too much if it's not the neatest, but the neater you can get it, the better. So just take your time. It might help you to zoom in a little bit. You just press Control and plus. And as you move your mouse around, the image should move with you as well. So don't worry if you can't see it all. It should move as you move the mouse to select your next point on the polygon. Mine is going really, really slowly though. So I might just zoom out a little bit. There we go. If you make a mistake and you do a point that you don't like, you can press backspace and it should get rid of the last point that you made.
Try not to double click as well.
Yes.
Because
that'll
complete
close
the selection.
Yeah. So if you end up double clicking, that'll close your selection. So just take your time.
But if you do double click, you can just start from where you left off because you've changed it to that setting that I selected before.
So if you go around the hair as well, don't worry about trying to get every single tiny little hair, because that is what the refine selection sort of tool is for. We'll just try and get most of it. Ethan, what's your favourite selection tool?
Oh God, what a
I know, right?
What a great choice I have. Probably the quick selection.
Yeah.
Or the magnetic lasso. One of them.
One of the fellas that makes it a little bit easier.
One of the cheating ones, yeah. You need that.
Yeah.
What about you?
I don't know. Probably the one.
They all have their own pluses and negatives, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't mind the magic wand, really. And then
it's alright, like.
Yeah. One day, I hope that my favourite will be the pen tool.
No. No, never.
When I'm a Photoshop pro.
Never ever will I ever use that thing. Unless I absolutely have to.
Yeah, I don't really like it.
You do have to use it from time to time, but
it is good. It's very powerful, but with great power comes great responsibility.
Comes great frustration.
Yeah.
Charlotte's just saying double clicking is why she doesn't like using the polygon lasso tool. It is quite easy.
I would like to ask.
To just get carried away.
I would like to put that question to our viewers. Then, please share your favourite selection tool with us.
What would you rather use? 2 seconds. Some ruckus going on outside.
Oh. I want to know what the ruckus is. This is moving very slowly. Ethan's been gone for some time. Must be some ruckus. Okay, here we go.
The hot beverage god has dropped off a cup of tea. That's what it was.
Oh.
Charlotte says she likes the pen tool a lot better in Illustrator than in Photoshop.
Oh god, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think really though, to be fair, it is made for Illustrator.
Yeah, and it's very good in After Effects as well.
Is it?
Because you can do like a live, like a dynamic mask, it's called. So, you can do your Bezier curves and that.
Yeah.
Look like a Bezier curve.
Yep.
You can draw it around something to hide it as it. So, say it's a picture, like it's someone walking or something.
Yeah.
You can hide the background behind them by having a mask, like you would in Photoshop. You draw around them. But you can animate it so as they walk, you move the points of the mask, and it hides the background as they're moving.
That's
it's
pretty
really
cool. Yeah, that sounds really good.
It's massively complicated. It takes hours and hours to do it, but it's really like it compared to how they used to do green screen and stuff. Like even now, when that technique's about 10-year-old or 15-year-old or something, so still gets used at times.
Fantastic.
Any kind of anything you would do in Photoshop with it, basically like drawing a path, it's exactly the same.
That's
but
pretty
you're
good.
doing it with instead of doing it on an image, you're doing it on something that's moving.
Wow.
Which again, you have to do it sort of frame by frame or a couple of frames at a time, which is a massive disaster.
Yeah.
It's good when it works though, and you get it right. It's class, but
I mean,
hang on. Webb's here, so he's been popping in and out.
Hi, Webb.
So it's a great show so far. So hi, mate. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully you've managed to select that, and you should have the little dot things that don't move
marching
around.
ants.
Yeah, they're just ants, I think.
Yeah, they're not marching. They're not going anywhere. They're on strike.
Okay, so
damn unions.
when you've got it selected, you can go to select and refine edge.
Oh, kill him. I've picked a really, really difficult one.
Have you?
I picked the guy with a beard, and it's an absolute disaster.
Oh, is it the one with the curly hair? I might
do
really
do him curly
next.
hair and the bushy beard.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I think I'm going to try that one next, but I think this one's a little bit easier.
I've made a total mess of this, like.
So you should have a screen that looks something like this when you go to refine edge. So the one on the right is your preview of what is going on. So you can zoom in, using your scroll wheel on your mouse, or I think Control Plus will do it as well. Yeah, it will. And you could get a little hand, like a little grabber thing, that you can move it around with on the right and just see what's going on. And you can change the background so it kind of gives you a preview a little bit better, kind of helps you to see what is selected and what isn't. And so this is one thing that I found that Photopea doesn't do quite as well as Photoshop, but it's not bad. So, and it's a good start for something like hair. And
I was going to say the one thing I like better is the real time side by side preview.
Yeah,
because in Photoshop it just sort of shows you done it in the refine edge window.
Yeah, it's a bit
hard to tell what's happening sometimes when you click it.
So I like the layout of this, but the tool itself is not as high powered, I have to say.
Not quite as good.
But it's a pretty good start. So the kind of areas that we're wanting to focus on, I would say, is the bits around the hair, the eyelashes, and bits around there. Everything else we can kind of mask out, really, so don't worry too much about, like around the chin and things like that, because there are a lot smoother areas that are, I wouldn't want to sit and cut around every single strand of hair, but I could cut a chin out okay, if you know what I mean. So
more of a defined shape.
Yes, that is a good way of putting it. So your right screen is the preview, and your left screen is where you've got the control to decide what is foreground, i.e. things that you want to keep selected, background, which is things that you don't want, or somewhere in between, so bits of both. And the way that you allocate that is it's just like using a mask. You having some trouble?
Yeah, it's all right. All I would say with this is go steady with it when you're doing it.
The more
It might lag your
information
computer a little bit.
you can give it, the better, but it does lag a little bit, so be prepared. So what I would say is, if you know for sure that it's what you want selected, so something like skin or anything like that, definitely use the white to brush it in. So it gives you a little preview. So I don't know if you can kind of see that there's like a grey sort of haze in between the background and what we've already got selected. That's kind of the in-between bit. So it'll just kind of help if I show you, I think. So we're going to use the grey first. I'm going to make this brush a little bit smaller and I'm going to zoom in a bit. So I'm just going to drag that around. And I'm just going to paint on in grey those bits around that, you know, have some background in and some hair, and it should give you a preview of what's going on. In a sec. Like so. Okay, so we're getting somewhere nearer, but it has got little bits of the background now in the selection, which we don't want. So we can just paint those back in, because we know that this bit here is definitely background. So the more information we can tell it, the better. So just paint that back in with your brush and make sure you've got that on the black colour. So hopefully that should help a little bit. And there we go, that is better than it was. And this is a slightly slow process, but just try and stick with it and it will help in the long run to help with your selection. So I'm just gonna use that grey again on those bits where we've got kind of strands of hair. And we can neaten it up afterwards. So, and you see there, because I've told it more again, more information, it did affect some of the areas around here, because now it has that data about some of the hairs up here. It thinks, that must be similar to that. So the more that you can do, the more it helps it to work out what you want selected and what isn't. I'm gonna go over to this bit, back on the grey, and I'm gonna just paint around here. And if it gets too much, you can always paint it back in with the background. So that went a little bit far there, so we'll see what happens. There we go. That went pretty well. But I am going to paint that background back in, just because I think it'll help with the rest of the image. But definitely err on the side of caution as well. You know, it's better
on the side of caution.
Hey. It's better to have a grey area than something something. What was I saying? You've totally.
I don't know. I'm sorry. Get wrecked. You've been sabotaged.
Okay. Hair on the side of caution.
Yeah. Charlotte's asking, how do you zoom in and out of the refined edge preview? I think you just scroll wheel.
If you've got a scroll wheel on your mouse, you can do it like that. I'm using a scroll wheel. But Control and plus and minus also works. And
you can only drag the view around on the right hand side, can't you? On the preview.
Yeah, I think
because if you click and drag on the left hand side, it's gonna paint, and I made that mistake about 4 times.
I think you can drag if you press the space bar. So if you press the space bar, you can move it. You know, just the same as a normal canvas.
Yeah.
So yes. So, but you can only sort of control the image on the preview side, if you know what I mean. So you can't paint on that side, but you can paint and you can move it around on the left. It does take a little bit of time getting used to, but once you get it, it's okay. Oh, I painted that in the wrong colour.
Yeah, I've just done that and I've completely rubbed out his hair. Come back here.
Oh no.
He's got like a damn Machiavelli or whatever. No, it's bald. Oh, it's back.
Bald.
It's It's grown back. It's grown some hair back.
Wonderful. I think
It's
I've
not
broken
perfect.
Mine's really confused now. It's fully crashed because it's like, but I thought that was what you wanted.
Yeah, I've done a madness here, like.
Oh dear.
That's close enough.
Oh, it's fully crashed. Oh, here we go. Whew. Okay, have some.
It's going to take a little bit of practice anyway, to be fair.
Yeah.
Plus, this is different to how you would do. So, if anyone's done the tutorial in Photoshop that we've got,
yeah,
this is not entirely different, but quite different. I'm just gonna completely like freestyle this. You're not even ready.
I can't wait for another Hastem masterpiece.
Hastem
Masterpiece. Hastem masterpiece. Or I could have
that's my artist name.
It would have been worse if I'd been Hastem masterpiece, though, wouldn't it? So.
Like Mike Tyson.
Yeah. Yeah.
The masterpiece. Or Daffy Duck.
Yeah, I think that was more Daffy, I have to say.
Daffy Duck. Duck season. Rabbit season. Oh no.
What's up?
Okay, the guy with the beard, just to let you know, on the beard, it's pretty difficult because you end up removing his t-shirt.
Oh.
A little bit.
Oh dear.
I know. That's not what we want. That's not safe. For what's happened there?
I was going to say, it's a bit... Yeah.
Also, he's got like a Yosemite Sam mustache as well, which doesn't help.
So, this is going quite well, but...
Must be nice.
I would say, you know, if there are bits that are sort of, you know, for example here, this is like a similar colour, but I think this is actually a bobble that is used, or whatever, to tie up the hair. So,
is this person famous that you're doing? Because it's like got the name in it, but I don't know who it is.
I don't know. Oh, is it not? Well, I got all of the images from Unsplash, so it's probably the name of the person that took the photo. So.
Let's see.
But yes, I was just about to say, just make sure that you sort of use all of the different colour settings where you can. Just like I was saying before, the more that you can tell it, the better, so that it doesn't just completely break the whole image, basically. So, for example, I remember because I practiced on that guy with the beard the other day. If you use the grey bit around the outside of his beard, and then where you know his chin definitely is, paint that back in with white.
Oh.
If you know what I mean.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Huh? It does, except it's just having a little moment to itself. So I'm just gonna let it.
I'll do that image next.
You're gonna do it a lot better than this. I'm just gonna say it's done and hope for the best with that one.
Okay.
I can see little wisps of his hair, so it's working in a fashion.
Yeah. You know, it doesn't matter if you haven't got them all or whatever, or if it's not exactly precise. It'll just help to sort of add
it's the final effect, right?
It is.
Yeah. The better you can get your selection to be, the more hair to be included, and the more little bits of detail on the face and stuff, the better it's going to look when you apply the double exposure, basically. Yeah. So it is worth it.
It's just so it's not like a big block then, basically. Yeah. So.
And it is just practice as well.
I suppose,
in terms of every image is different as well,
definitely.
Which is the other thing.
I think a lot of these as well that I haven't tested, like the combinations of different backgrounds with different subjects as well. So some of them will work better with other images as well. So don't be too worried if...
The common one you see, isn't it, is like the tree line becomes the hair.
Yeah.
Or like the clouds. If someone's, say it's like, it's usually the hair's like slicked back and tied up.
Yeah.
And then there's some clouds sort of like radiating out of the hair sort of thing.
So there's a lot that you can do with them. But you know, some images will work better than others. In general, if you are using your own images, I would say images that you can use with a high contrast help. So that's why you get a lot of like forests and snowy things, because there tends to be a lot of, really dark areas and also really light areas. And I've also completely messed up this eye, so and it's broken now. This is very slow, but it'll be worth it, hopefully. But if you'd like to look for your own images as well, I would definitely recommend the website Unsplash for copyright-free images. They're all really good quality, and there's a lot of different things on there, so definitely worth having a look. And that's where I got all these from anyway. So.
Pexels as well.
Oh yeah,
some good backgrounds on it.
Yeah,
probably. I don't know about actual pictures of people. I'm not sure, but it definitely has landscapes and stuff.
Yeah. So you can try, choosing your own landscape or whatever. Doesn't have to be the ones that I've chosen for you. Might be quite cool to pick things that are like, I don't know. You could do like a travel series or something, which would be quite cool. Like different iconic landmarks and things.
Yeah.
Or you could always choose, I don't know, I mean, these won't be copyright free obviously, so you can't sell these, but if it's just for you, you could always do it with like your favourite film characters or game characters,
Yeah.
Choose a character and then, a location that they might be at, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen a few. I think one of them was John Wick. Someone did a John Wick one.
That's cool.
Seen online. I'll try and find it. I'm sure it was, but it was a print. So obviously, yeah. I think they'd licensed it.
That's cool.
In fact, was it maybe the movie poster? I don't know if that's the official one. The problem with it is when you start looking, you'll not know what's official and what's just like fan created sometimes. Yeah. But I think people have done them. I'm just seen it on. It might have been Reddit actually.
Yeah.
There might have been a few like that's movie ones.
Well, if anyone has any suggestions, I can totally wing it and just see if I can do like a combo of two different things, and I'll try that next. If anyone's got any suggestions for films or characters or whatever, I'm happy to give them a go. Okay, this is getting really slow and really annoying. I feel like I can barely breathe when I'm doing this. Otherwise, I'll let move.
Accidentally move your mouse.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
See you later.
I nearly did it there. As soon as I started talking, it just went whoop. I'm sure everybody's already done, and I'm just here like, yep, gotta try and get this eyebrow right.
Yeah, I'm looking for double exposures that I've seen, and now suddenly I kind of find a single one. I've seen if actually Star Wars, that was it on. We did the Star Wars stream.
Yeah.
There was a one on May the 4th, and it was like a bunch of different characters. So it was like stormtroopers, and There, I found one there. So it's like
Nice.
a Stormtrooper double exposed with like Hoth. So obviously it's white on
Yeah,
white.
that would be cool. Maybe
There
drop.
was one, and I think it was. Hang on. I'll drop it in the chat. Hang on. I'll find a few and I'll drop a couple of links in just as some examples. There was one of, I don't know if you've watched the. So there was this. I don't know where these came from. I think these were just fan made. But they did like loads of different posters with the different characters.
That sounds cool. I thought about doing that as well, but then I thought, is everybody all Star Wars'd out after the last one?
Possibly, but you could do any film really.
Yeah.
Like, you could choose any film franchise. Really.
Yeah, anything at all.
You could pick one of the Marvel movies. You could pick Indiana Jones.
Yeah, that would be cool. Anything?
And what they often do is they'll take a little bit of the show, or like that film that they're in, and that'll be the double exposure in the background of say one of the characters.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So there's the I'm gonna copy the link, but sometimes the link from Google Images is absolutely mad. So let's have a look. So there's you can actually use that one for personal use. Apparently, it's on itl.cat, and I really don't know what that website is, so wait there before I share it. Popular high resolution desktop and mobile wallpapers, that one. So that's like a wallpaper share one. I wouldn't use it anywhere, to be honest, but just as an idea.
Yeah.
Dawn of the Dead, you could do one of them. So I've seen quite a good it was on the subject of posters. It was Left 4 Dead, actually, I believe.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, there's a few on Halo as well. If anyone's ever played Halo, there's a couple of Hulk ones because I mentioned them, but they've done the double exposure with some like paint splatter effect.
Oh, that sounds cool.
So they've obviously traced the outline like you've done.
Yeah.
I will also copy a link to that one as well. This one's really good, actually. It's a canvas that you'd have to buy. I think that might be a painting, actually. But you could recreate something like that in
definitely
in Photoshop, so I'll hide that in there as well. Just some ideas. It doesn't necessarily have to be an image in the background. They've used it and done like a color.
Yeah.
So Charlotte was talking about using it in Illustrator as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you could do. So it's just a splatter brush basically that they've used to paint on where his pants would be and obviously his hair.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I have a feeling that's a painting, like an actual painting, but you could do it digitally.
Yeah, you definitely could. So, I mean, this technique...
Dan's put one in there as well. The Dawn of the Dead. I'm sure it must be on here somewhere.
As long as you've got two different images that are going to work well together, it's just a case of using your masks appropriately to kind of paint in or out the areas that you do or don't want. So, we'll have a look at that very soon. But I think I'm finally done cutting this thing out. So I'm going to click OK, if you haven't already. And it will have already cut it out for you on a new layer.
Oh, yeah. It's exported a new layer. That's cool.
Yeah. So you should have that ready to go as a shape. Okay, so I'm going to look for whatever image that I want to expose this with. So I'm going to go File and Open. I'm going to have a little look in the Landscapes folder and see what we've got. I think I might try this one. Okay, so I've opened a kind of lakey, foresty thing. And I'm just going to copy all of it with Control A, Control C for copy, and then Control V for paste, and it should appear on a new layer over the top. So
just I'll put a link in there and people might be wondering what's that. That one's by Chris Spooner, I think.
Oh, okay.
who does a bunch of like very well illustrated stuff.
Mhm.
So you can do it with drawn illustrations as well. So anyone who's drawn anything in the likes of Illustrator or whatever, you can use them assets to do a double exposure as well.
Good stuff.
If you want, if you can be bothered. Obviously, we did a bit of the even just the shape stuff that we did last week.
Mhm.
You can build something like that in there as well.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so now I've got that image on there as another layer. I'm gonna make it so that it fills the canvas. So I'm gonna transform it, and let's see if I get the shortcut right. I think it's Control Alt and T. Hey, it is. And I'm gonna make sure I press Shift and scale from the corners.
Control Alt T.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And I'm gonna press Enter, or you can click the tick when you're happy, and that should be over the top there. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to mask out the shape that we've already got of whichever person that we've cut out. So if you press Control and click on the thumbnail of your cut out portrait, it should select that for you. So you should have those still ants, the not marching ants, in the area that you've cut out. And this is why it's important to cut out the hair and stuff. And then you just click the mask button, make sure that you've got your sort of landscape layer selected, click on the mask, and it will mask it out for you. And next thing that we're going to do is we're going to duplicate our portrait layer by pressing Ctrl and J, and you should get a copy of that. Drag it up to the top of the stack, and we're going to switch off the other one. That's just kind of our spare. And we're going to change this portrait layer to screen. So as you can see, we've got quite a good start of where we want to be with this. But we'll need to fill in that background and maybe get rid of some of these areas as well. But the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to unlink the chain between that mask and the background. And that means that we can place that wherever we want to and get like a good placement, decide where we want it. So make sure that you've unlinked the chain, and then you can click on make sure you've got the thumbnail selected of your landscape or whatever. You can go onto your move tool and drag it around. And if you're not quite happy with the size as well, you could always transform it. So I'm going to do that with Control Alt and T. Remember to press Shift if you are scaling your image so that it doesn't distort the proportions. I'm sort of considering flipping this as well, so I'm going to try it. So I'm going to right click and do flip horizontally. But it's totally up to you, and it'll be completely different depending on what images you've chosen as well as to what's going to work. So just spend some time getting the placement how you like it. But you can always change it later on as well if you're not happy. That is the beauty of masks. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to choose a colour for the background so it's not just floating on nothing. I'm going to make a new layer and I'm going to drag that underneath my landscape. I'm going to use the eyedropper tool, or you can press I on your keyboard as a shortcut, and I'm going to select a sort of randomish sky colour up here, And I'm going to use my paint bucket tool. So we last used the gradient, just make sure you select the paint bucket. And I got that by right clicking on that tool. And then you just click anywhere on your canvas. So it looks less like it's just floating now, which is what we want. So next thing that I'm going to do though is I'm going to kind of choose the bits that I want to keep and the bits that I want to get rid of. So for example, I think we can just get rid of that area above that tree line. I think that'll look pretty cool. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to zoom in, and I think I might make a copy of this just so that if I do something wrong, I've got this one to go back to. So I'm going to do Control J, and I'm going to switch one of them off. But I can now work on the mask on this one here. So I'm going to go to my brush tool, I'm going to change my foreground colour to black. I'm going to make the brush a little bit smaller. I just did that with the bracket, the open bracket, the open square bracket. It's just underneath the minus key. And I'm going to just rub out that area there. Make sure you've got like a soft brush on as well. And it should be pretty subtle. Just gone a bit. And I'm just using the space bar held down, and it changes your mouse into a hand, like a little grabby hand, to move that around, so that when it's zoomed in, I don't have to keep, zooming in and out and stuff like that. And you might need to mask out some areas on the face as well, so I'm going to add a mask to that one. And I'm going to just brush out some areas there as well. So it is really subtle. I don't know what you can see on your monitors.
Charlotte's just asking why it's Control Alt and T. It's because if you're using things like Chrome and like Firefox or whatever, if you do Control T, it opens a new tab.
Yes.
So they had to change the shortcut so that it actually works.
The amount of times I've opened new tabs
and stuff
when practicing is unbelievable. So. Okay, so hopefully you've kind of got an area similar to that, where there's sort of not as much stuff going on. So it just looks like you've got that tree shape at the top, or whatever, if you've got an image like that or something. And I think I'm going to get rid of the ready for work. I'm going to get rid of this guy's t-shirt outline as well. Goodbye t-shirt. So I'm just going to make sure I'm on the mask of the portrait. I'm just going to push that out. I think I'm going to drop the opacity a little bit further on the brush, just so it's not as harsh. But like I was saying, it's totally up to you. Do it just by eye. Just get it how you think looks good. I'm tempted to get rid of his ear too. I think I'm going to get rid of it. Yeah, I'm glad I did that. But if you decide that you want his ear back, you can always paint it in by changing your colour from black to white. And you could paint it back in on your mask if you wanted to, but I'm not going to. So you can choose how kind of ghostly you want the face to be. You might want it to be really, really subtle, or you might want it to be quite prominent. But there's a little bit of his sort of brow that is like messing up that tree shape there, which I don't really like. So I'm going to get rid of that a bit. I think that was a bit strong, so I'm going to drop that opacity.
Probably going to be a lot of bits where you go back as well, I'd
Yeah,
imagine. You think, actually, no, I don't like that at all.
definitely.
Or that looked better when it had more in or less in.
Definitely. It's just a case of trial and error, I would say. What I have found is really useful though is if you have your default colours on, your background and foreground, you can do that by pressing D on your keyboard or pressing that little D there. And if you press X, you can quickly shift between your foreground and background. I don't know if you can see those colours changing. And it's just easier when you're using a mask to quickly paint in areas or paint kind of areas away or whatever. Just a little bit quicker than repeatedly changing your colour all the time.
You know what? Mine's not too bad. It's not amazing, but it's not the worst.
I'm excited. Okay, so I do have some kind of fuzzy areas around here that I don't want to be that fuzzy, so I'm going to paint those out with the mask as well. But I'm going to go and use a harder brush this time because I want a sharper edge. Maybe don't want 100% hardness. I'm going to go for like that, 85%. And I'm going to make that smaller, just so we don't have those areas of sort of fuzziness. Make sure you've got your opacity back on 100. You might have to do this on 2 layers. So you might have to do it on your portrait as well as your landscape layer. Don't worry if it's not too neat, but it will help just make it feel a little bit more crisp. I sometimes find as well, if you're not particularly confident using a mouse to paint with as well, you can click once with the mouse, then hold shift, click somewhere else, and it'll draw a continuous straight line between, a bit like using the polygon. It's not great for everything, but if you have got an area that, you know, could do with it, it's sometimes useful.
So anyone that's used a mask before as well now realise the back where they were before, when you have to sort of go around all the edges and you have to go back in and zoom in and turn it from black to white, and it seems like it's a nightmare, but it's really worth doing.
Definitely. And the closest that you can get to it being perfect, the less time you spend doing this really when you're refining your selection in the first place. Which is why I spent so much time on it. It's looking a lot neater than it was.
Open a new tab again.
How's yours going?
Keep opening a new tab. Like 10 seconds.
Okay. So I quite like where that is at the minute. But there are other ways that you can kind of affect your images and stuff. So maybe if you're sort of not happy with how the face is coming through, you could add a levels adjustment layer. And I'm going to do it the long way. So I'm going to go layer, new adjustment layer, and levels. And I'm going to put the clipper mask on, clip it to the face. And it didn't clip. Oh, try that again. It might seem subtle, but just moving things a little bit will really change the feel of the part of your image. The image overall, to be fair. So you can decide how subtle or not subtle you want things. And if you can't remember what it looked like before, you can just touch the eye on it. Or if you feel like the face is strong, you can drop the opacity. Ooh, make sure you're on the right layer. It's really up to you. Oh.
Yeah, make sure you're on the right layer and you're not painting on the face, because that's what I've just done there.
Oh dear. Yeah, make sure you're
history tool. It's fine.
Yep. Your history tool is your friend. Okay, so I'm quite happy with how this is looking at the minute. But I think I've just been quite lucky with the images that I've chosen as well, and they've worked quite well together. But what I am going to do is I'm going to add a few adjustment layers and just kind of see what happens. So I'm going to add a, should we try gradient? Let's try gradient fill and see what happens. And then change that from normal to overlay. Ooh. Not sure how I feel about it, but that's where trial and error comes in. And because they're adjustment layers, you can just switch them on and off. It means that you can, you know, it's not like a permanent edit to your work. I'm gonna add a gradient, I think. That looks pretty cool in black and white. I might try our old favourite, violet and orange.
Violet and orange.
Oh yeah. And changing the blender mode will have some pretty serious changes on buttons to your image. So just have a play around and see what you think. That off. I'm going to try another one, but I think I'm going to make this gradient myself this time. make sure you put it on overlay so you can see what's going on if you are using a map or a gradient. So that it shows you in real time what happens as well. So and don't be afraid to use crazy colors in your gradients. Sometimes it looks really good, and sometimes it looks terrible. You know, swings and roundabouts. But I think changing gradient can really affect the mood of the piece. So, you know, something like that that's very, it's almost sort of swampy, feels very different to, you know, when I had that orange and purple gradient. And if the effect's a bit too strong, you can always drop it. You know, you can't go wrong with orange and purple. That's the real MVP, I think. The orange and purple gradient.
Decent, like, yeah. It's a staple.
How's it going?
Yes.
Yes.
Why are you a different colour than that? That doesn't make any sense.
I think I'm gonna try adding some noise, just so it feels a little bit, I don't know, a little bit more rustic. So I'm gonna go. Well, I think I have to make a new for this, so I'm gonna try anyway. Filter, noise, noise. I'm just gonna zoom in a bit if I can. It doesn't want me to. I don't know if it adds noise if there's nothing on there. I feel like nothing's happening, so I'm gonna get rid of it. And I'm gonna fill that with my visible layers. Hopefully. Did that do anything? Or has it just crashed everything? Oh, it's crashed, it's fine. Okay,
That'll be fine. It'll come back.
I'm just waiting if I'm, you know, pondering. Oh, there we go,
Yeah.
it's fine. Oh, is it fine? What's going on? That wasn't what I asked for. Let's try that again. Control Shift Alt and A, which should hopefully paste my whole layers, but we'll see. Talk among yourselves while it decides. Okay, it is there, but it's not. Okay, well, we'll work with it.
Go with it for now.
Go filter, noise, add noise. I just want to see what happens. Sometimes adding noise to your images sounds like, why would you do that? But sometimes it just adds a little bit of, I don't know, makes it feel like an old film or something like that. Sometimes it can add to the atmosphere. And sometimes it looks awful.
Yeah, there is sometimes that happens too.
So, like anything, it's just a case of giving it a try, seeing whether you like it, and being like, yes or no. So, I'm gonna tick monochrome as well because I think that'll keep it just black and white rather than like crazy colours. And I'm like looking at my two different monitors and it looks completely different on each screen as well. But that's fine.
Yeah, you'd be alright, man.
It's the sliders though.
Just not a fan.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
Let's try
it's
5.
doing that to me a little bit actually. Just so yeah, with the sliders, what I'd probably do is go like as slowly as you possibly can if it's lagging. If it's not, great.
I would just type in the value. I think that's working better for me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go with 5 and just see how I feel about it. Do I like it or do I not? Nah.
Nah.
So I'm pretty happy with that. So I think I'm gonna call it a day on that one. But I would love to see everybody else's images. So if you do make something, please send it in to us. We would love to see it and we would love to share it. So you can either share it on social media and use the hashtag #WeAreMediaSavvy if you'd like us to see it, or you can send it to us in a direct message on Facebook or Twitter, or you can email it to one of us. Or if you've got any questions, feel free to email us or leave something in the comments as well. That's totally up to you. So, but we would love to hear from you. So, yes, please send them in. Okay, I'm going to save this out now, I think. So I'm going to do File, Save as PSD.
It's a difficult one as well, a double exposure. You probably struggle to get it right the first time. You'll not be fully happy with it. So just have a few goes.
Yeah, I'm going to try another one now.
It's one of the more advanced ones.
Yeah. A lot of it is just based on, you know, doing it by eye as well.
Yeah.
So don't worry, basically, if you've done things on your image that you think, wow, that looks terrible. Or if you've tried things and thought, that looks great, I'm going to keep that. Lots of unexpected things sometimes really work with this kind of thing. And sometimes you might find that the images that you've chosen just don't seem to be working together, and that's okay. It does happen. So
it's very irritating, but it's all right.
Yeah, it does happen. So I'm going to choose some other images and I'm going to try it, and I would imagine that, you know, it might not go as well as this one. It's very likely that that will happen. So yes.
Relax. Don't get stressed the first time around, because like I say, it's very difficult to get it right.
Yeah.
Even now, when you sort of know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's not the easiest technique in the world.
I think I'm gonna try that fellow with the curly hair and the beard. I think.
Yeah. Well, you can see mine should be in the Monday the 18th.
Oh, is it?
One now, so you can see what a monstrosity I made. I was replying to emails at the same time as doing this, so it's not as complex as yours. I did the very basics of it, and the hair's not quite right.
Oh, here we go. Oh, that looks class.
If I can do it, you guys can do it.
That looks really good. Yeah. Oh, I feel like I can't do that one now. It won't be as good as that one. So.
Well, nothing is. Do you know what I mean? Look how fast it is.
I feel like we need to do like the Hatham Gallery. We need that. What's that music again? That goes do 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 do. That one, you know.
I don't know, like the Crystal Maze.
No.
Oh.
You know, like what they had on Smart and stuff.
Oh right, okay, I do know. Yes.
It's like.
I feel like it's probably copyrighted in some way.
Probs.
While you're opening up the next one, I'm going to quickly go and grab some water.
Okie doke.
No one. Wib has put in the chat very clever, Ella, but I think that was a little while ago. I just didn't want to interrupt you while you were on a mission.
Thanks, Wib.
Right, 2 seconds, guys.
Okay, I'm going to have a look at some other images. Let's see what else we've got in the folder. I might try this guy. This one seems like it'll be a good choice as well for a little shortcut. I didn't even think at the time, but because it's on almost a white background, we should be able to pretty much drop an image on top of that. So let's have a look. Open. Let's see what other landscapes we've got in there. I'm gonna try that. Maybe this one. Okay. Control A to select it all. Control C. I'm gonna get rid of those other ones as well. And Control V for paste. It's gonna do it. There we go. So I'm gonna do Control Alt and T and get this so that it fills all of the canvas. Remember to press Shift when you are scaling your image.
You've gone for a different one, I see.
Yeah. Well, you'd done it so well that I thought I'm gonna have to try something else.
That's it, like. Don't want to be getting upstaged.
But I'm gonna cheat a little bit because this guy's on a white background, so.
Oh.
So I'm gonna do this one super quick, I think. And then it'll probably take us 7 years.
It's always the case.
I know.
I think it's gonna go quick, and then nope.
I know. Let's have a look. See what we're working with. Oh, okay. That didn't go as well as I was hoping. I'm gonna be honest. So, I'm gonna move this round and see if that's gonna be salvageable. So I'm gonna transform that. Because currently, I'm thinking it may be more. Hang on, where's it gone? That's very rude. Yeah. So I did have an image there before.
And now
I don't.
It happens.
I think Photopea is getting upset.
Yeah. I would, if you guys are doing this, I'd recommend having as few tabs open as possible as well. Just because it gets real angry sometimes.
Okay. So I've put that on normal and it's just black. So I'm gonna have a look on my history and just see what happened. So it was fine there, and then not there. Okay, I'll just. Oh, I've opened a new tab. There we go. Control Alt and T. Now, as soon as I scale it, it hates it. Okay. And I've opened 2 new tabs in the space of about a minute. And you know what? This just doesn't seem to be going so well. It's because I said it was going to be quick.
I suppose this is what happens, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
All it said, very good, Hatham. Definitely do a video of all Hatham's works with the smart music playing in the background. Upload it to YouTube.
Amazing.
I'll have to get cracking, won't I?
Yeah.
Thanks, Charlotte. I appreciate that. Every now and then, I can do one well. It just takes about 100 attempts.
You've done really well.
I've done it before in a Photoshop session at the double exposure, and it's gone completely wrong. And I've been like, no. You know, it is. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I'm gonna have to start again. Like, this is just all. It's got to like the point where I'm adding like the gradient in, and I'm like, this is just wrong. It's just completely wrong.
Oh no.
So yeah.
I'm gonna
try. Even now, like you say, sometimes you pick two images that you've done, and you bring them in, and you try about 6 or 7 different things. And you're like, nah, this is not working. This.
I know.
So yeah, just bear with it. You might get that, especially when you go and going your own way.
Yep. It's all trial and error.
Definitely.
I think as well because his face is in a lot of shadow as well. That might also be a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
So
entirely
that one looks
possible.
Okay. So I cheated a little bit with this one, but that looks pretty cool. If all else fails, I'm gonna say this right now. Just try the starry one, and it'll probably be okay.
You'll be alright, man. You'll get through it.
Here we go. So, like I was saying before, this is going to be a quick one if you choose the right images to work with each other. So I'm just going to mask out the bottom of this and make sure that that fills the whole canvas. Does anyone have any suggestions for a film or game franchise that I can make a double exposure of? Because I think I might try it super quick after this. Welcoming suggestions from the chat.
Have a look. Oh. I'm trying to think of what films are out at the minute, but obviously there's not a lot because everyone's delayed everything.
Yeah. I started watching The Mandalorian yesterday.
It's good.
With 4 episodes through.
What did you think?
Yeah.
Well made.
Good. Yeah, good stuff.
Not particularly like you wouldn't have to know a great deal about Star Wars to
No.
either, which is quite nice. You could probably watch that in its own bubble and not really care about the rest of the Star Wars universe.
Definitely.
Someone's opened the door. I don't know who it is. Yeah. Oh, good. I've been given a map.
Oh.
For whatever reason. I don't know why.
That sounds ominous. Ooh.
So there we go. Now I have a mask on, which is good.
Lockdown, but make it fashion.
Ow. Okay, I'm taking that off.
No.
Ow. It's got elastic on the back. I think that's for when I go to the shop.
Oh, okay.
I haven't brought my dinner in today, so I need to venture out into the world. Now I have the protective equipment necessary.
Good.
Yeah, certainly is.
I'm gonna.
Have we got any suggestions? We haven't got any suggestions so far.
Rude.
Leave it open. There's a Halloween movie coming out. That might be a good one. Halloween Kills. I don't know. Slated for October this year, so there you go. Good old Jamie Lee Curtis, isn't it?
Just seeing what would happen if I was to. I'm just trying a couple of things.
So Charlotte's saying you do a film called Angel Eggs. It's an old anime film. If you just Google Angel Eggs anime, it's one of my favorite anime villains.
I will have a look. Hatham, if I open this in a new window,
Yeah.
like, would it just leave this Photopea one on? OBS?
It should do.
Just hang on, let's try it. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Then. Okay.
You could hear the confidence in my voice there, couldn't you? And I just didn't have a clue if it was going to work or not. It's fantastic. Just
trying to find two images that are going to work together pretty well. Let's have a look. I also have never seen this, so I might end up choosing things that maybe don't fit so well together. But
yeah,
we'll see. The art on this looks really cool.
I'm waiting with a bit of breath at the moment.
Let's see. Okay. Trying to find one that looks kind of like more like a landscape type thing. Let's have a look. Got no idea if this is going to work, but let's try it. Okay. And I'm going to open a couple that I just grabbed that may or may not work. But Charlotte, you should definitely have a try and see if you can do something with it. Especially if you really like the film, then you'll be able to choose things that make more sense. Okay, let's see. That is very small. Let's see what we're working with here. Desperately trying to think of ways to put these together now.
You're on the spot now. Like we need some like pressure music, like the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire music.
Like definitely like the last 5 questions and that.
Yeah.
Where it gets more and more intense all the time.
And then someone in the background is just
yeah.
like so what's I mean that would clear the audience out probably now, like to be fair. So everyone would be flapping big time. Oh yeah, that'll be really cool. I've just flicked back to the stream. That'll be really cool because she's got like loads of hair in that, so that gives you loads of
Hopefully.
like room to play with, doesn't it?
In theory, but we'll
I
see.
think I've seen a few. I remember someone did quite a few along the lines of the links I posted before. I posted a Pinterest page,
Uh-huh.
and I said a collection of double exposure posters. They were all like hand drawn ones, but you could do it with clips from anime things like Dragon Ball Z. I've seen a few cool ones on.
That sounds cool.
But it was just using the outline as well, so
Yeah,
there was no like detail of the person, but it was each character,
that
and
sounds
then like
cool.
a scene with them in.
Ah, okay, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that it's just the outline of them. There's no detail on the face or the hair or anything, or
Yeah,
even their outfit. It's just their shape, and then inside that is like a scene from the show.
that sounds really
Um,
cool.
it's quite good. And like you said, you could do it with anything.
Yeah.
It could be a real, like actual footage like of a person, or it could be a completely hand drawn
Mm.
cartoon. Really doesn't matter.
Okay, I think I might. Out. So I have no idea what I'm doing, so who knows whether this will come out really cool or really awful. But
We'll cross the fingers.
yep. One good thing about cutting out, things like anime or cartoons or anything like that is they have lines for you to follow, which is pretty good. And I am going to do this pretty quick, just because I am aware that I don't have much time, so when you guys do this, you're going to do it loads neater than I am, obviously.
Obviously.
Obviously. Okay, what are we doing here? So, literally just having a play around with some of the different possible placements that I could have. And trying to think what are the most important bits. Oh, it's definitely crashing all the time. Okay, I don't know what's going on here.
It's getting there though.
Oh, okay.
It's just slowly but surely.
I won't even change the size of the brush now, so. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to use a slightly harder brush as well for this because we do have those sharp edges, so it won't look as weird. Oh, I see what I've done here. There we go. And this is where that sort of, if you click once with your brush and press shift, it'll do a whole straight line for you. kind of becomes useful. Okay. I think that might have been somebody at my front door.
A delivery, perhaps?
I might have to just go and get that, if that's alright. I'll just be one moment.
Okay. No worries. That was meant to be no worries and no bother, and it came out however that came out. But yeah, go for it.
2 seconds.
We're almost there, guys. Don't worry about it, man. This is the ideal opportunity, and I can't play it because I'm not in control of the stream. However, imagine there's a survey alarm playing now. So, like, I can't remember how it goes. Well, I'll not do it because it'll be real loud and you'll get real upset. But there's the link to the survey. There you go. There's a survey alarm. If you could take 30 seconds or so to complete that, that'd be great. Oh, that's 309 seconds I've just typed there. I bet I've spelled every word in that sentence wrong. So if you take 30 seconds or so to complete that. Yeah, so if you could just do that while Ella runs to the door. I assume she's getting a delivery. I hope she's not in trouble. What else we got? Where are we up to? I haven't actually seen the image that she's done either. So
sorry about that.
Oh, I was just saying. Hopefully you'll be back soon.
Sorry. Yeah, it was
I had
just
to do an impromptu survey alarm because I didn't send you the video. So.
Yeah, sorry. There was somebody at the door. So.
So yeah, the survey's in there if you guys can do that. If anyone's watching back as a actual video rather than on the live stream, if you could fill that in as well, please. And thanks.
Something terrible's happened.
Oh,
I don't know where.
The Zoom call's gone off. Have you minimized the window, like the Zoom window?
I might have.
If you just open it back up again, and then don't minimize it, just click on the Chrome.
It's like, only you there?
Oh,
I don't know what's going on.
I can't see it yet, so hang on. I'll wait till the stream loads back up again.
I can see it on my screen now, but I can't see it on OBS.
On OBS. Click back into OBS.
Hang on.
You might have to reset the Zoom window.
Oh.
To be honest with you, there's 20 minutes left. If you kind of get the cameras working again, just
I'm just gonna switch them off.
Yeah, just switch them off. It'll be fine.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. I don't know why though. I don't know what'll happen. I think sometimes when you minimize the Zoom window, it does the other view and it knacks the capture.
Oh, hang on.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Hang on, I might have fixed it.
It's a bit temperamental.
Yeah. Well, it says it should be there, but it's not, so I'm just going to switch off.
It should be here.
Okay.
It's not there though, so never mind it.
I'm just ignoring
next week.
Okay. Now, what I didn't realise was this is actually going to be a major task with all of this here. So let's have a look. See where we're at. But it might be easier if I use, where's the wand? This might help. Charlotte, this was an excellent suggestion, and that the artwork for this looks really cool, but I've literally picked the worst image of all time to start on, and now I don't know what I'm doing. So you'll have to do one and show us all how it's done, because this is not it, I don't think. So what I'm doing is I'm just selecting all of the areas that are dark, so that aren't the hair. So what I can do then is select the inverse, so I get all the bits that I do want. So I've never tried this before with like a drawn image before, so I also feel a little bit out of my depth. But it's fine.
I suppose with this particular image, it might be a little bit easier with the hair because it's obviously a little bit more pronounced and it's like on a black background as well.
Yes and no.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's still difficult.
Yeah.
But you're able to use the magic wand, which is nice.
Yeah. It hasn't gone.
Where on the other one you had to do your lasso and then refine it.
Yeah. It hasn't gone that well, to be fair, but we'll see what we can do.
Oh, this is just making us feel like I need a haircut even more. It's like I'm looking on my. You can't see my camera anymore because it's off. I'm desperate. I need it. It is hat day as well, and I even brought a hat in, but I didn't put it on, so you're not even going to get to see that.
I mean, I don't think I've ever worn a hat for hat day.
I've ruined hat day for everyone. I don't even think Dan McAvilly or whatever's got a hat on today, to be honest.
Really?
I don't think so. He had his hood up, because obviously he's gangster, but me hat.
Rude. Okay. This has not gone as well as I'd hoped it would, admittedly. And I feel like I don't know what to do with it.
Cry?
Yeah.
Will cry. I tried that.
Here we go, let's try something else.
Someone's kicked my door down again. Rude. I'm not turning around though. If I don't look, it won't be there.
Are you finished?
No. You're just going to stand in the doorway like a weirdo. The camera isn't on. There's a bald man. Yeah, you're not on stream. Oh, he's got it. It's not on. Ella had to take it off because it's broke. He's pointing to his hat. He's got a hat on.
Oh.
Shout out to Team Sunderland because it's a Team Sunderland hat as well. It's part of the University of Sunderland, by the way, just in case anyone was keeping score. Charlotte, she likes how the image is coming out. Also, the full movie's on YouTube, Angel Egg. If you just type Angel Egg in the YouTube, you should be able to find it.
Sounds very cool. There's also a prog album of the same name, if anyone's interested. It's pretty weird. This is admittedly not going as I thought it was going to go.
Yeah. You didn't give yourself a lot of time, to be fair, because like, it was a bold one to choose.
Yeah.
I think it's something good, to be honest. I get what you're going for, like the around the head bit.
I've switched it off because I'm too ashamed that I've ruined it.
Oh, okay. Too ashamed. Good.
So you can all. I feel like I might just put Hatham's back on.
Good.
There we go. So this is how it should be done. This is the way that you should do it, and yeah. So you can all put me to shame, and yeah.
No, send us one in. Do one. And
send please send us one in.
It'll definitely, like I was saying, we've done these ones with like quite a strict time scale to them.
Yeah.
So spend a bit more time. So you see on the one I was put on the screen there, if you look at the top like right of his head, it's a little bit too sort of blurred out, and that's because I had to like sort of rush it with the softer brush. And I didn't spend as much time on the bottom right either. So and his t-shirt's still in and things like that. So spend a bit more time than we did because I sort of rushed through them a little bit.
Yeah. What you can do as well, actually, I think I'm gonna, if I've got time, I'm gonna quickly show you this. So you can combine images as well, which is quite cool. So like Hatham was saying about how, I think we said it was like paint splotches and stuff like that was like combined with images of the Hulk. So you don't have to have them exactly overlaying each other, if that makes sense. So
yeah, so it was like all over the shop, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I'm gonna see if I can find something. I'm gonna try this guy and see if this works. So I've got an old guy on the screen now, and I'm gonna also open. This might look pretty funny, but it was just the first thing I could think of. This mountain. I think I'm gonna put this on his head. So
okay, that dude looks real angry.
Is it gonna paste? Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna do this like super quick. But you should take more time than this. I'm even gonna just grab this with the normal lasso. I'm feeling reckless. Ooh. Ooh, it's nearly okay.
It was nearly okay. Such confidence in yourself.
Well,
it's nearly all right.
Oh, don't be reckless. Just use the polygonal lasso like a normal person. I feel like a psychopath right now. Just okay. Right, I'm gonna mask that, and I'm gonna crop this a little bit so that he's more in the middle, and we've got a bit more room up here. And I'll switch this back on. So hopefully this will transform in a second. God, Photopea is just having a meltdown. Here we go. So I'm just going to scale that down a little bit so that it just about fits his head. So this guy's going to have like a modern head. I feel like this maybe it's going to look like he's got like the weirdest hat of all time.
Nope, there he goes. There goes Diego. It's got a bit of a paw pat going on, like.
I know.
But it's not bad. It's good. It's what you want to see.
So just trying to figure out where to put this. So you can do this much neater than this, and this is just to kind of show you what kind of things you could maybe do. Mask that. This is quite cool to combine images, and you get a little bit of crossover. But you could always combine this with another background as well. It's just a case of carefully choosing which bits you want to keep and which bits you want to get rid of. And just make sure that you're using your masks. Now he looks like a really angry wizard.
Yeah, or like an alien.
Yeah.
Like with a really pointy head.
Yeah.
Or sort of like what you'd imagine, what people used to imagine the people would look like in the future, like some weird space age hat on, but like in like a 70s sci-fi film.
Yeah, I was thinking like in like Doctor Who or something.
Yeah, like it's Future Man from the future, and he's like standing there on a podium,
Yep.
with the light around him for no reason, and
Yeah.
it's got like a flying robot butler.
That would be really good. I would watch that.
Sort of like the Jetsons, but just with a pointy head.
I would genuinely watch that.
Cheers, Wib. He said he has to dash, but he's done the survey.
Thanks,
he's out
Wib.
of here. Appreciate that.
And I think I'm going to get rid of that a little bit because it looks like it might just fit just there if I get rid of that.
What's on his face? Is that a mole?
God, there, yeah.
Next to his nose?
Yeah. I feel like that is a really big mole.
That's a big old mole right there.
Mm.
We've just said, wished I still had hair, bye. Okay. Don't know what to say to that one, Rube. Sorry.
But do you wish
It
you
is
still
Photoshop,
had...
though. You
I know, right? We could...
do whatever you want in, well, Photopea, actually.
Yeah. So I'm just going to add a gradient map. Just to make sure it's all a similar colour, so...
Guess this guy's name's Cliff, right?
Oh yeah, that's incredible. You're on a roll today.
Oh dear me! Can't see me camera, but I'm cringing. Can't believe I've done this.
Hang on.
Hang on, what? Like hang on to the cliff?
No, just that was unexpected. I didn't expect that to happen.
Oh.
What's going on? Right, hang on.
I don't know whether you tell me. Something wrong. Something is wrong.
Just want to add a background. Oh, it's going to be okay. So I'm adding a new layer.
Everything's going to be all right.
Control Shift Alt and A. Please. Oh, everything's crashing.
They'll do that. Don't worry. You'll be okay.
Here we go. Okay. I can't even add a new layer anymore. Here we go. go. Just say add a background, and there's a little few bits I've missed there, so I'm just going to mask those out.
I suppose if you change your background colour as well, you can see the bits you've missed.
Yeah,
It's quite handy.
that is useful. And slightly annoying. Think that
Yeah, when you think you've done it and then you're like,
Yeah.
no, I have not.
I feel like this is like an indie album cover or something.
Yeah, I feel like if his head was an ice cream cone, and like it would have his chin sort of melting because obviously he's got the wrinkles and stuff.
Oh, I wish you'd said that earlier.
So it's fine. That's what someone else can do it and then send
Okay.
it in. Have like an upside down melting ice cream head. Man, thing, person.
Oh, come on. Oh, Photopea is just going crazy now. Well, we've only got 2 minutes left, so.
Nah, that's fine. I'm sure everyone understands. It does its thing sometimes. It's just got to bear with it.
New adjustment there. Let's see what we've got in the old gradient. Oh, that red and green's pretty cool. I'm going to stick with that. Okay, there we go. Now we've got some crazy mountain wizard.
Crazy mountain wizard.
So, there we go. Okay, so some of those were more successful than others, but that is, hopefully you can see that is pretty much just par for the course with double exposures. Some images work great with other images, and some just are like, no, this is not compatible. So it's really a case of trial and error and using your masks and your adjustment layers to get different effects. That's the main things really, and just get really creative. I would say choose interesting things to put together. Yeah, that is the long and short of it. But we would love to see some of the things that you've created. Please send in what you've done in the session. I would absolutely love to see them and share them with us, and we can put those out on our social media and stuff. Yeah, and I think we should definitely have a gallery of hate them masterpieces. But we would love to see yours.
There's two in so far, so yeah. But please send us your work in.
Yeah.
If you've not had an enrollment form, ?
Yes, if you
please get in touch.
Yes, please do the
survey in.
Please do this. Please do the survey, and we can get in touch with you.
Oh god, choking on me water.
Yeah, I know. And so yeah, please fill in the survey, and we'll get in touch with you if you haven't done an enrollment already, so you can fill one in. Literally, it'll take like 2 minutes. So, yes, we would really appreciate that. So I think that is all for today.
Yeah, I think we're done. Survey link is still in there, but we'll post again. Just so it's last on the chat, and cheers for joining, guys.
Yes, thank you, and hopefully
let us know if you want what else you want to see in the survey, and if you needed an enrollment form, we'll be in touch.
Yes, please, and hopefully you've learned something today and made some cool images.
done a thing, done a learn.
Cool. All right. Okay, I think that is all from us then.
Yeah, you'll have to end the stream on the dashboard, because mine crashed.
Okay.
You have to go back to the YouTube dashboard.
Oh, okay.
Mine did die.
Okay. Well, I will just do that. And okay. Hopefully I won't break everything as I try and end this stream. Okay. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.